You're listening to The Moose and the Loose, your 10 minutes action-packed financial podcast with your host, Mike Yahoo. Hey, what's up, Market Moose? This is Mike from The Moose on the Loose. Happy Monday. Today, we're going back to look at Alimentation Couche-Tard, one of my favorite company. They reported their earnings last week, and I want to do a quick overview of what happened in the quarter, and then we're gonna spend some time on the I don't know, I was tempted to say the deal, but it's not a deal at all right now. It's just Alimentation Couche-Tard trying to acquire 7&I or 7-Eleven, the popular convenience store from Japan. Actually, funny story, it was founded in Texas, but then eventually bought back by a Japanese company. So just for the story. So let's go back on Couche-Tard. So mixed quarter here. Actually not that great. The thing is, revenue were up 6%. But it was all about the acquisition. If you look at the same store merchandise growth, it's actually negative everywhere. So the same store revenue decreased 1.6 in the United States, 1.5 in Europe, and then 2.3 in Canada. So long story short, when you look at any convenience stores that were operating under Couche-Tard in 23 versus this year, they're all down 2% in sales. So the only avenue for growth this quarter was the previous acquisitions boosting the sales. On the other side, we saw earnings per share declining by 10%. So not that great. Couche-Tard say, it's getting better, sequentially better month over month for the same store merchandise sale, but it will require a lot more. But I mean, keep in mind, Couche-Tard is a relatively cyclical company. If consumers are tight on their budget, they may not go for actually the convenient and pay a premium to just get to that convenience store and get their stuff quickly, but probably drive an extra kilometer or two to go to the grocery store or just to skip the purchase altogether. So that's pretty much a story for the quarter. It's just going through a tough economic environment. I'm not surprised because it was pretty much a narrative in 24 so far. But on the other side, we have seen that in the past. It's not the first time that Couche-Tard is apparently dead, so I'm not too worried about that. It's just a matter of looking at how management will deploy their plan moving forward in 2025. On the positive note, though, the dividend has been increased by 11%. So it was the smallest dividend over the past 5 years. But when you put that into perspective, when you increase your dividend by 11% and it's the smallest one, it's still pretty solid. So long story short, the company generates a lot of profit, a lot of cash flow, and it is able to finance its growth on top of offering generous dividend increase at the same time. So now what I really want to talk about is the huge waste of time so many investors are falling into when they look at a big news and then they're starting to make calculation and estimation and assumptions, and they read and consume content like there's no tomorrow on something that doesn't look that it's going to happen. And I am talking about the potential acquisition from Couche-Tard to acquire 7-Eleven. So here's the thing. It started in August. So if you've been following this story, you've been consuming content in August, in September, in October, in November, and here we are in December, and the story is not done yet. So all that time thinking about, oh my God, if they get into that much debt level, it's going to squeeze them. It's a big bite to chew. So should I sell my shares? Well, you're asking all of those questions and spending all that energy and time for not much right now, because There's no deal on the table. And that was my first reaction about a couple of months ago, like a few months ago, when I got asked, like, what do you think about 7-Eleven? I'm like, okay, so I'm going to take a look at the idea, and then I'm going to highlight the fact that right now there's no deal on the table, so there's not much thought you should give into this. And then every single week there was seems to have like a new story to develop here, mostly because 7-Eleven is playing hard to get. They're trying by all means to not be acquired by Couche-Tard. And the situation is interesting. So Couche-Tard is looking to improve its growth sales inside their convenience store, and they know that it's not going to happen with cigarettes and tobacco products. They know it's not going to happen with fuel, so they need to go with fresh produce, go a little bit more towards food and like package meal, I guess. Everything that is being offered at 7-Eleven. So there's a like a natural match here where they can acquire not only a very interesting footprint outside of North America and become like by far the most largest convenience store chain in the world, but also to learn. So there's like the economy of scale, the synergies, but also learn a little bit more about their model, because 7-Eleven has a lot more convenience stores than Couche-Tard, but Couche-Tard is more like related to convenience store attached to a gas station. But going back on the deal, when the deal was there, and they like Couche-Tard is like very smart about this deal. They're not trying to push it. They're not trying to be hostile. And I'm pretty sure that it's because they want to respect the Japanese culture, and they don't want them to run away, even though it's not looking good so far. But they go with a friendly, smooth approach. Like they put a bid on the table, that was not enough. They increased the bid, that was not enough, and now chatters are that the company is trying to go back private. And actually, if it happens, it could be super interesting for Couche-Tard, because if 7-Eleven goes private, it will require a huge amount of debt to buy back all the shares that are on the market. And therefore, they kind of be squeezed with their budget, trying to focus on paying down the debt instead of growing. So that will open the door for Couche-Tard to grow even more aggressively on the market, while its biggest, largest competitor is getting busy just being private instead of like actually generate growth for shareholders. But again, I'm see how easy it is. I've been talking about this deal for like 4 minutes now, and it may or may not happen. Maybe something else is going to happen. We don't know the what's going to happen next, and that's the most important part on this thing. If you've been following the story, it's been several months now that you're just spending a lot of time and a lot of energy for absolutely nothing, like nothing, because nothing happened so far. Couche-Tard is the same Couche-Tard as it was back in August, and we don't know more about that. So my point of view on those kind of deals is, let's wait until there is a deal that is agreed on the table, that both parties decides to go ahead with something that is specific, that is clear, and that you can analyze so you can determine what to do. And then you tell me, but Mike, maybe it's going to be too late. Well, right now it's not too late, it's too early, because you're just going to take a decision on a guess, and then you might as well just flip a coin, because I don't know about your crystal ball, but my crystal ball, not that effective for that kind of thing. So instead, I'm holding on to my shares, I'm cashing my dividend, I'm reallocating this, and I'm just happy. So I don't mind. It's not it hasn't been a very good year for Couche-Tard, but after the past 5 years, I can definitely sit on those share at a stock price around $80, and I will still be smiling. And that's what I think is the right way to do it. Instead, I rather spend my time and energy elsewhere. So don't hold your breath until this deal is closed, because we don't know what's going to happen. And just try to look at your portfolio a little bit more instead, as a allocation point of view, making sure it's well diversified and looking at the financial metrics of all the companies you own. I think it's going to be like time well invested in trying to guess how the Couche-Tard and 7-Eleven story is going to end. All right, Moose, that's enough for today. I hope that you will have a wonderful day on the market, and we're going to talk again tomorrow. Until then, don't forget to stay invested. Hey, welcome to the disclaimer. If you're listening to The Moose on the Loose, you cannot really expect me to give you buy or sell recommendation or financial advice, right? You're here for fun, you're here for information and some entertainment. But I am not your financial advisor, I am not your broker, so therefore I'm not liable if you're losing money after listening to the podcast. If you're looking for some advice, go see a professional. If not, you can enjoy the show and do your due diligence after it.